What is up, YouTube? It's Josh. This is the Den of Nerds. This video is all about Sith lightsabers and why they are the color red. And before I get really too far into this, I must say something. I must say that there has been a great disturbance in the canon. Have you felt it? And the reason I say that is because, of course, in expanded universe lore, and the way that all hardcore Star Wars fans know the Star Wars universe, the reason that those Sith lightsabers are red is because they are made from synthetic Kyber crystals. That was the explanation that was delved into in expanded universe, and because it was never directly contradicted in the films, that is what we went with, that is what we all believed. But apparently, that is not actually the case. There's a lot of truth in legends, but there's a lot of untruths in legends. And in the latest installment in the new canon Disney Star Wars novels, Ahsoka, it is delved into on exactly why these lightsabers are red. And it is a very, very cool explanation. It has to do with something called bleeding. But before I go any further, I must put a spoiler warning out there for you. If you haven't read the Ahsoka novel, you should probably go do that and then come back to this video, because I'm going to spoil at least a certain part of that book, and that's your only warning, and here we go. So basically, we find Ahsoka in this position where she needs lightsabers. Hers, of course, were taken away from her when she left the Jedi Order. They're actually given back to her by Kenobi and Anakin, but she puts them in a grave that is supposed to be Captain Rex's grave in order to fake not only her death, but Captain Rex's death on, I believe, Mandalore, but that's a whole other thing. The important thing is this: she needs crystals to make lightsabers, right? So, Kyber crystals, we learn in the book, can sort of sing to different people in the Force. People that are Force sensitive can sort of hear this song that the crystals will sing to you, and this is exactly what happens to Ahsoka in this book. She hears these crystals, basically, which have like a sentient quality to them. They're calling out to her for her to come to them. Now, when she gets to them, we realize that they are actually crystals from the old Jedi Academy, but they are currently red, and they are currently being used by an Inquisitor. The Inquisitor is using a double-bladed spinny saber that's common for the Inquisitori, and basically both of the crystals are inside that weapon. Now here's where it gets interesting. That sacred bond, that natural symbiotic relationship between the Kyber crystal and the Force wielder will produce a natural color, like, let's say, blue or green or yellow for the temple guards, which I find kind of interesting, and I want to go into, greater detail later, or purple if you're Sam Jackson, because you're just a badass motherfucker. But Ahsoka realizes that these crystals have been corrupted and bent to the will of the dark side by the Inquisitor and by whomever had them before. So here's what happens. When that crystal with its sentience is bent to the will of a dark side user, it goes through a process known as bleeding. This literally turns the color of the blade and the crystal, that blood ruby red that we're all really accustomed to and used to when it comes to the Sith. Now, on a complete side note, when you look at something like Kylo Ren's crystal, okay, and I've heard J.J. Abrams say on multiple occasions that the very nature of that saber, the fact that it's unstable, the fact that it's cracked, that is a literal direct metaphor for Kylo Ren's state, for his spirit. And if that crystal is his crystal that called to him and that has that relationship with him, and he literally, because of the bleeding, he's obviously given into the dark side, that would literally cause a fissure in that crystal that would cause that instability, and it's just, to me, that's really, really cool stuff. But essentially, what Ahsoka goes on to do after she gets these crystals is she purifies them. she is able to take the bled in crystal and purify it, and that's where she gets the white blades that you see she uses in Rebels. Now, it's unclear whether or not every single bled into Sith crystal, once purified, will become white, or if it becomes white because of her pure but neutral stance within the Force. She is a gray Jedi, so she does not fall in the dark or the light side of the Force, and she even says it herself at the end of Rebels Season 2, I am no Jedi. So it's possible that the crystals are corresponding to her nature and relationship within the Force, or every single red saber that's purified becomes white. We don't really know the answer to that, but it is really interesting that we get this official in-canon explanation as to why the Sith have red crystals. To me, this begs all sorts of questions. Like, are there different hues of red? What happens when a crystal first starts to bleed? Like, could you see a mix of red and green, or like a green with just a little bit of red in there? And also, what about the Death Star? I mean, the beams that come out of there, I believe, are blue, right? They're not red, right? But yeah, just so many interesting things. It brings in all sorts of elements, and I really like this idea that there is a relationship between the Kyber Crystals themselves and the people that utilize the Force. I find that very interesting and intriguing, and the Ahsoka novel is great. I'm actually not even finished with it. There is like this part at the end that apparently deals with Kenobi, which is just one more clue that we're getting that Kenobi movie, which I can almost guarantee you we're going to get that Kenobi movie, which is really, really cool. But the Ahsoka novel, for so many different reasons, is really cool. But I wanted to kind of jump on this because some news people are kind of running with it, and for good reason. It is actually a really, really interesting new take, as opposed to the synthetic nature that the Sith of the expanded universe had. This idea of bleeding and the dark side bleeding into these crystals, I mean, that is really, really cool stuff. So let me know in the comments section, like, did you think that was pretty awesome? Do you think it's possible to have like a pseudo bled into saber? Is this something we're going to see from certain characters as they start to fall to the dark side in all of these movies and in the shows? Very, very interesting stuff. But let's check that nerd card, guys. This question is going to be about Star Wars, and the question is, there is a race of aliens from Expanded Universe that had an empire, and they were incredibly powerful within the dark side of the Force, and I'm talking real powerful. They kind of look like hammerhead sharks. I'm going to put an image up for you. But my question is, what is the name of that alien race? Answer that question in the comment section below, and you're definitely going to want to do that to get in on the giveaway that's going on to the end of October. Tons of people are entered to win. It's going to be really, really cool to see who gets those drawings and see who gets all that good stuff. And as I always say, guys, I hope you're having an awesome and nerdy day, and may the Force be with you. See you.